Today, we're going to discuss a significant development in the South China Sea today because there are increasing tensions between China and the United States there. There have been worries about a potential military conflict after a U.S. aircraft carrier strike group recently conveyed a stern warning to Chinese carriers using the disputed waterways. Let's start by giving some background knowledge. In addition to being a vital waterway that connects the Pacific and Indian Oceans, the South China Sea is also abundant in natural resources like oil, gas, and fish. However, a number of nations, notably China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, contend that their territorial and marine rights in the area overlap, giving rise to territorial conflicts and geopolitical rivalries. Based on their unclear 9-line map, China asserts its authority over the majority of the South China Sea by creating and militarizing artificial islands, deploying naval and aviation assets, and other actions. The U.S. has carried out freedom of navigation operations and supported its allies and partners in the region, viewing the South China Sea as a crucial strategic interest and a flashpoint for regional stability. Let's talk about the most recent occurrence now. On March 14, the U.S. Carl Vinson aircraft carrier strike group and its escorting ships, a guided missile cruiser and destroyers, sailed into the South China Sea. The U.S. military said that the deployment was a regular part of its efforts to advance maritime security, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific area. Yet, the American carrier group's transit was significant for its timing and position. The American action came soon after Shandong, China's first homegrown aircraft carrier, began its first combat training cruise in the South China Sea. The Shandong, China's second aircraft carrier after the Liaoning, was commissioned in 2019 and represents a significant improvement in China's naval capability. The U.S. carrier group's transit took place at the same time as a high-level conference between Chinese and American officials in Alaska, where neither side was able to make any progress in their tense relations despite exchanging harsh insults. In the South China Sea, China has been accused of coercion and aggression by the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who also vowed to preserve the global system of laws. China's foreign ministry slammed the U.S. for flexing its muscles in response to the U.S. action and pleaded with it to stop causing difficulties. Also, the U.S. was charged with undermining regional peace and stability by the Chinese Defense Ministry, which urged it to act prudently and abstain from any reckless acts. What does this event therefore signify for the South China Sea and U.S.-China relations? With the Biden administration's reaffirmation of its commitment to its allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific, some commentators regard the U.S. decision as a sign of its deterrence and resolve to resist China's assertiveness in the region. Others caution that such bold activities can exacerbate tensions and the likelihood of misunderstandings and confrontation. The strategic and legal ramifications of the U.S. Navy's transit in the South China Sea could be one aspect that is highlighted. The U.S. asserts that its actions comply with international law, notably the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which China has ratified but disagrees with several of its articles. China views the U.S. FONOPs as provocative and an infringement on its sovereignty, but the U.S. contends that they are intended to challenge overly aggressive maritime claims and maintain freedom of navigation for all nations. The larger geopolitical context of the U.S.-China conflict and its effects on the South China Sea should also be taken into account. In order to curb China's influence and handle issues like human rights, trade, and technology, the Biden administration has designated China as its primary geopolitical rival and has committed to adopt a more proactive and coordinated strategy. The Belt and Road Initiative, military modernization, and COVID-19 diplomacy are just a few of the ways China has aimed to increase its regional and global prominence. In addition, there are possible environmental and humanitarian crises in the South China Sea in addition to territorial and maritime disputes. The area has a rich environment and is a significant fishing area, but it is also affected by pollution, climate change, and overfishing. Additionally, the disputed islands and reefs have been militarized and may be used as battlegrounds, increasing the potential of civilian casualties and displaced populations. The ASEAN nations have approached the South China Sea conflicts with caution and balance, but they have also expressed worries about China's military and expansionist impulses, as well as the potential for escalation and confrontation. An international tribunal sided with the Philippines in its dispute with China in 2016, but China disregarded the decision and persisted in its forceful behavior in the region. To offset China's influence, some ASEAN nations, including Vietnam and the Philippines, have bolstered their armed forces and sought stronger connections with the US and other allies. Others, like Malaysia and Indonesia, have made an effort to remain impartial and engage China through communication and mutually beneficial business partnerships. Nonetheless, the ASEAN nations have also struggled to retain their cohesion and unity in the face of conflicting interests and outside pressure. By isolating certain ASEAN members and providing economic incentives and diplomatic backing to others, China has attempted to divide and conquer the ASEAN community. The US has also attempted to strengthen its relationship with ASEAN, but has come under fire for its pick-and-choose strategy and lack of commitment to multilateralism. As a result, the disputes over the South China Sea are not simply a bilateral matter between the US and China, but also a regional and global issue that calls for an all-encompassing and cooperative solution. While also tackling the region's underlying economic, social, and environmental problems, the ASEAN member states may play a crucial role in fostering discourse, confidence-building measures, and peaceful dispute settlement. The US and China should respect the sovereignty and interests of the ASEAN nations as significant players and cooperate to ensure the stability and development of the region. There have been a number of close calls between US and Chinese military aircraft and vessels in the South China Sea in recent years, increasing worries about the potential for a crash or a shooting incident. Also, the likelihood of a direct confrontation between US and Chinese forces has increased as a result of the militarization of the disputed islands and reefs. The region and the entire globe may suffer greatly if the US and China engaged in a military battle in the South China Sea. It might result in a loss of life, harm to the environment and infrastructure, interruption of international trade, and security issues. It might even start a bigger confrontation, including other nations like Australia, South Korea, Japan, and more, and turn into a full-fledged war. Thus, it is essential to keep the lines of communication and engagement between the US and China open, as well as to encourage openness and confidence-boosting measures in the military. Moreover, the UNCLOS and UN Charter, as well as other international laws and standards controlling the use of force and dispute settlement, should be respected by both parties. Tensions and uncertainty caused by disagreements over sovereignty and marine rights in the South China Sea have the potential to harm international trade and investment. The conflicts have also sparked a scramble for resources and power, with China and other nations looking to take advantage of the region's abundant oil and gas reserves, fisheries, and tourism potential. The disputes over the South China Sea also have an impact on international legal standards in global governance. The UNCLOS and the idea of peaceful resolution of conflicts have been called into question by China's rejection of the tribunal verdict and its forceful actions in the region. China's activities have drawn criticism from the US and other nations as being unstable and against the rules-based order. Thus, the South China Sea disputes demand a coordinated and multilateral response because they not only affect regional security, but also global economic and legal issues. The UN, the World Trade Organization, and other international institutions should take a more active part in fostering communication, confidence-boosting measures, and peaceful dispute resolution. In conclusion, the disputes over the South China Sea are a complicated, multifaceted subject that calls for a careful, cooperative response. The U.S. Navy's warning to Chinese carriers should be viewed as a component of a larger initiative to uphold the rules-based order, safeguard the freedom of navigation, and respect the sovereignty and rights of all nations in the region. The international community can aid in ensuring a peaceful and prosperous future for the South China Sea by cooperating and having meaningful discourse. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and turn the notification bell on so you never miss a video. Until next time, see you later.